and welcome to the latest installment of the Rick Deezel Show. I'm your host, Rick Deezel, here for another guy. Let me tell you, we have got such an outstanding show for you today. We have got a guest that will just blow you away coming up later on in the program. Rick Deezel's exclusive interview with Hall of Famer, legend, one of the greatest wrestlers in the history of the business, the Russian Bear, Ivan Koloff, is going to be right here on the program today. You don't want to miss that. It is a great show for you right here today on the Rick Deezel Show. But got a few things we got to get out of the way first on the Rick Deezel Show. As you know, it's just a couple of short weeks till the AIWF stars, the AIWF champions, and some of the stars head out to Trenton, Tennessee for the big one out at TIWF, and it's going to be good. Jimmy Love is going to be defending the AIWF World Heavyweight Champion out in Trenton, Tennessee. Also going out, Lewis Moore and Tennessee Ernie Nord. Now, Tim Dolan's going to be there. We're all going to be. Here's the crazy thing about this. All right, myself, Rick Deezel, Lewis Moore, Tennessee Ernie Nord, Tim Dolan, Smiley the ref. They're sticking us all in a minivan. We're driving out with a couple other people, and I'm gonna have the Rick Deezel cameras. It's going to be a wild time. We're filming the trip for the Rick Deezel Show. It ought to be good. We'll get some good interviews with some of the TIWF stars out there. So be sure to be looking for that coming up real soon right here on the Rick Deezel Show. Now, as you may have seen over on the Cyber Zone, Rick Kelly has made his return. Now, let me tell you what I like about Rick Kelly. He is the Showcase Rick Kelly. Don't confuse him with the Showcase Jason Blade. That's something I'm sure that them two are going to have to work out pretty soon over in Pure Pro. But what I like about Rick Kelly is the man has some style and great hair. Okay, so you keep your eye out on Rick Kelly over there in Pure Pro, but he's got a problem, okay? With his win over on the Cybers on this past episode over Matt Terror, it puts him, he is now in contention for one of two titles. Either the Pure Pro title, which is currently held by Dangerous E, Corey Edsel of Fatback Enterprises, which has been making a few appearances here in the AIWF and their affiliates. And he's also working his way up the ladder for a possible shot at the AIWF World Heavyweight Champion, handsome Jimmy Love. Now, these two know each other from way back. They're friends, and they have been they've been up and down the road together for quite some time. So I'm really interested to see if Pure Pro has the balls. If the promoters over there has the balls, then you put Rick Kelly in a match with Jimmy Love. That's what you got to do. I want to see it. Have some balls. Make it happen. But also over in Pure Pro, now Jimmy Love has a problem with the big man beef. And we're going to talk more about that in future episodes. But got a couple things we got to cover. As many of you may have seen it on the last episode of the Rick Deezel Show, I did something in Capital Punishment that is not set well with a lot of people, and that was what I've done to the lovable Kenny. Well, that has stirred up some emotions in some people, and I have an email that come into the AIWF site right here from a Mr. Wilson. You did not say whether or not I can say your entire name on the show or not, so I won't. This is from Mr. Wilson. I think he's going to know who he is, and it's stuff like this is why we have that R rating at the opening of the program. From Mr. Wilson to the AIWF. I hope this letter reaches the damn nasty desk of Rick Deezel. It's here, brother. Don't you worry. You send an email to the AIWF about Rick Deezel, or he will get it. Rick Deezel, you are a cold-hearted son of a bitch. Now, I will read this letter word for word, okay? Just remember, this is the people who's roaming around in public out there. Rick Deezel, you're a cold-hearted son of a bitch for what you did to Kenny in Elkin. I was at the show and I was so pissed off at you for costing him the title that I wanted to get my hands on you myself. Kenny was out after his match signing autographs and taking pictures with kids even after he got cheated. He was really nice to my 3 kids. He even gave my little girl a sticker. And I wish you would just leave him alone. I hope they fire your ass for what you did, and I hope you read this on your show so that everyone knows how I feel about you. This is the part I like. You chicken shit. Now, Mr. Wilson, I hope you're not teaching your kids to talk like this. First off, what I did to Kenny needed to be done. Everybody knows that, but only few of us are willing to admit it. Kenny is going to be a problem in this business, a liability, if you will, because Kenny does not have the mental capabilities to be in that ring with professional athletes. Now, you wanted to get your hands on me, on Rick Deezel. Yourself, you were so, quote-unquote, pissed off. Well, let me tell you something, Mr. Wilson. You need to get in line. Rick Deezel, for many, many years, was a god in the world of independent professional wrestling. There was a line around the block of people who wanted to get their hands on Rick Deezel. And I'm going to tell you what, if I have my way, as far as Kenny's concerned, then you better start forming the line right here, buddy, because it's going to get a lot longer. Because before I'm done with Kenny, he's going to wish to God he never stepped foot inside a wrestling ring, because he does not belong there. And as far as your 3 kids, I'm sure they're great kids. I'm sure you're doing a halfway decent job of raising them. Now, I don't know where your wife was that night, but maybe that's a question you should be asking yourself. But the fact that you would let a total stranger give candy to your kids, then maybe you need to take a step back and think about your parenting skills. But let me tell you something. As far as Kenny's concerned, and another thing, as far as this caseworker who keeps coming on the AIWF message board posting her little comments about Rick Deezel and what he done to Kenny, well, let me tell you something, Miss Whoever you are. If you don't think Kenny should be in this business, you're his caseworker. Get him out. If you're afraid he's going to get injured or he's going to get hurt by somebody, then maybe you need to think twice about letting him sign those contracts to get in the ring with these fine, upstanding gentlemen like Lewis Moore and like J.D. Anderson. But let me tell you something. If you don't think Kenny belongs in there, you think he's going to get hurt, then you need to take him out. You need to take him to a daycare somewhere. You need to stuff an Elmo doll in his hand, shove a yoo-hoo down his throat, and tell him to play with the rest of the kids. Because, by God, this is where you play with the big boys. No pun intended there, Eric Bischoff. But I tell you what, if anybody else has any letters for Rick Deezel, oh, I guarantee you send them in. We'll address them right here on this show. We're going to take a quick break now, and we'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the Rick Deezel Show, and now it's time for our interview of the week. We have a great one this week, a very special interview with a legend in the business. I'd like to welcome him right now, the legendary Mr. Ivan Koloff, the Russian Bear. Welcome to the Rick Deezel Show.
Thank you, brother.
I guess my first question for you, Mr. Koloff or Mr. Bears, is with your talent, you could have done many things. You could have been a coach. You could have been an Olympic medalist. What made you choose professional wrestling?
I think I seen it on television. You know, television came out way back, I guess around the early 50s. Matter of fact, as close as I can estimate it was 1950. I was about 8 years old. My mom and Dad took us to a friend's place that had this new box that would show pictures like movie theaters, and it was wrestling was on. I fell in love with it. That was it. I wanted to be a wrestler. I drove the whole family crazy about wrestling, and I often thought about boxing, you know, because I got a long reach. You know, I'm a short guy, but I got a long reach. But whenever I seen that wrestling, that was it. I wanted to be a wrestler, and you know, for it to come true is like very exciting for me. It was just a dream come true for sure. It was just something that, for me, just to be wrestling, whether I was winning, just to be out there, I didn't care about all that. And then whatever, I got a chance and I won the Canadian Championship in the late 60s, and then the WWF title early 70s, I was on top of the world.
Okay, so if you don't mind me asking, when was your first match, and did you win or lose?
Actually, I credit my first match to wrestling against my hero, Bruno Sammartino, in Pittsburgh TV. I got a call one day just after I was graduated. Now, I believe that was my first match. I could have had one in Toronto TV right around that time. Whichever one was first or second, I'm not sure. I like to think the one with Bruno was, because in '63, I ended up getting a call. Bull Johnson, I remember a guy from the gym, one of the older veterans, ended up being sick, and he was supposed to go down to Pittsburgh, I think it was Channel 11 with Bill Cardell, and do the wrestling. And Bruno Sammartino had just become the WWF champion, and I didn't know I was going to be wrestling against him. I just showed up to take this guy's place. I excited, you know, and they came in the dressing room and they says, hey, pretty big guy. I was about 250 at the time, lifting heavy weights, and he says, tonight we're going to put you in against the champ, Bruno Sammartino. My heart fell. I was, you know, but you can imagine, you know, being nervous. You're hearing my hero, my first match, and on television on top of it. I was excited to say the least, but it was great. It was great. Just what a feeling to be out there, you know. And insult to injury, I tell some of these stories in my book, you know, this one in particular really comes to mind because you know, we're always ribbing each other in the dressing room, and that particular night, one of the old timers picked on that I was really green because just starting in the business, and he was pulling my leg, and he said, what you need to do, kid, is when Bruno goes down, and he always said prayer before his match. I dropped a knee in the corner, made the sign of the cross. He was a Catholic man, Roman Catholic, and he would say a prayer. He said, whenever he does that, kid, if you want to get noticed by the promoters, you attack him, and by attacking him, they'll see you're a tough guy, and you know, you get noticed. I fell for it. I did it, and I'll never forget Bruno looking up at me because I was not what you call a polished wrestler. I was kicking hard. I was a strong kid, and I was laying them in, you know, young man. And by this time, I was right around the 20-year-old mark, and I was bound, determined I was going to get this guy. But he threw me around like a rag doll for about, it seemed like about 10 minutes, but it was probably about 1 minute, you know. Put me, manhandled me, and then put me in a bear hug and put the squeeze on me. But that was my experience, my first experience, yeah.
Okay. AWA, NWA, WWF, WWWF, out of all those groups and the titles you held in each one, which do you consider the most significant title reign in your career?
Oh, definitely, without doubt, the WWF, because of, at that time, not that the National Wrestling Alliance wasn't looked at worldwide, it was. They had members from Japan to Australia to North America, South America, all over. But New York being the apple, you know, the big, and it represented Madison Square Garden being the famous arena. That was the elite. Bruno was such a big star, you know, that I'd have to say that was the big moment for me and the biggest bell. Although I've held a lot of and wrestled a lot of important and large opponents like Andre the Giant, guys like Haystack Calhoun, get in there with the Ric Flairs, and man, it's just a thrill. But the name one, I'd have to say, you know, that was the elite with the WWF.
You may not remember this, but many years ago, myself and some friends of mine went to Andre the Giant's ranch in Ellaby, North Carolina, and you were there, and the late, great Wahoo McDaniel was there. Now, I was just wondering if you didn't mind, do you have a fond memory of Wahoo that you'd like to share with the fans?
Wahoo? Oh, man, he was what a hoss. I mean, he was a tough man. I mean, when you go from NFL football and you become, in wrestling, you know, the best in the wrestling field, you're indeed an athlete, like a Blackjack Mulligan, you know, type of thing. You know, you stand out. And you didn't fool with Wahoo. Wahoo was respected. You know, he laid that chop in, and man, if you didn't treat him right or with respect, you would feel that chop if you didn't react properly to his wrestling skills and treat with respect. But yeah, one short story that I heard, I didn't witness it, but I believe it. You know, that he ended up making a wager at one time, because they drinking a few beers after a match, and I forget who they said, it was down in Texas, and Wahoo had just started in the business, and talking about football and all this, being a great star, and he had said, talking about guys being able to do the marathon, you know, 26-mile run, and Wahoo was saying, I did my running in my days, I could do that, and the wager came out, a couple $100 wager. 26 miles away from whatever, Dallas, Fort Worth, or whatever it was. He says, okay, I'll take the bet on. Jumped out of the car and ran all the way back, and won the bet. Whether it's true or not, I've heard the story so many times that I believe he was tough enough to do it. So.
I've actually wrestled Wahoo twice, and it was I credit them as the greatest matches of my time in the business. So.
Yeah. I guess my next question is you've worked all over the world, and you've worked for Vince McMahon Sr. So in your opinion, how do you compare the wrestling business today to the business of professional wrestling 35 years ago?
It's a new product. It's a different product altogether, in the sense that still the objective is to entertain the people and go out there with the wrestling skills, but the art of wrestling back in our time is not really expanded on today, but simply because they've changed it to more of a controlled atmosphere of you do this, you say this. Consequently, what happens is it takes away the, I guess, inbred character that the person has himself, the talents he has himself. Me, Canadian boy, being a Russian. You know, this is what I visualized, and through my years of doing it and maturing into that character. But if you were to give me that back then and say, you go out, talk like this, and do that just like I ended up doing, I had trouble with it, because I never considered myself an actor. The guys that adjusted to it were the guys that were, I guess, really talented, like the Ric Flairs and that. They could go for the old style to blending in with what they're doing today and still complement it, But it's a different product. I mean, and it's not to take away from it. It's become big business. I mean, probably 100 times more in revenue or more than it ever was. I mean, now where guys before making $100,000 a year, now they're making $1 million to $10 million a year, and you can see it. I mean, instead of the revenue coming from the Coliseum or the arena, a percentage of that, depending on where you are on the card or who you are and whether you win or lose or whatever your deal is. Now it's like a rating on TV, and the people sitting at home, it's millions, hundreds of millions of dollars now, and not even to talk about the merchandising, So you can't really compare it as far as the same product, but at the same time, It's wrestling, what they call wrestling today, and it's become really big businesses. Everybody, probably one of the biggest draws ever, you know, as far as television is concerned. And my hat's off to Vince in that sense, Junior. You know, I got along good with him. He was the announcer, commentator when I was up there. His dad was the promoter. His dad, last time I was up there was against Bob Backlund, 83. His dad died around 85 or something like that. He changed it to more of a soap opera-ish type of control thing, and he's proven to be right on because of the money, you know. I wish he'd share a little bit with the old guys as far as DVDs and that, you know.
Yeah.
I guess he does with the guys that suck up to him, I suppose, but I'm just not one of those guys, I guess, so that's all right, though.
Good for you.
Yeah,
good for you.
Maybe someday he'll have the respect enough to ask me to be, and I'd like that, you know, to be part of the Hall of Fame thing. Unlike Bruno thinks of it all as a farce and all that. Anytime you're with your peers, even though wrestling has changed, to me it's complimentary and on the top of it. I'd like to be able to have that audience of reaching out and just thanking my Lord and Savior for being so kind to me and patient with me to allow me to live all these years. You know, you can take the bad and turn it into good. I mean, I became a mess, to say the least, with drugs and alcohol over a rough career of that many years. But to now for God to take that and turn it all around and have me, not that I'm perfect or anything like that, far from it, but He is, and I recognize that. And it's to my honor to go out and glorify Him now and just be able to go to prisons and try to encourage kids to stay away from the stuff that traps I fell into, drugs and alcohol, encourage them that God's got a purpose for them, and I really enjoy that. I became ordained a couple of years ago. I'm marrying people today. What an honor that is, you know, to do that and to go to churches and just to, you know, proclaim what God has done for us, you know, by sending His Son to die for our sins. You know, that's the only hope we have, and without that we would be lost forever. And whenever I found that out, man, to this day, man, thank you, Jesus, really.
I guess my next question is comparing wrestling today with wrestling back in your day. Do you feel like the wrestlers of today have the same work rate or the same dedication to the art of professional wrestling that the stars of your day in the height of your career had?
No, it's changed, so it's a different product altogether. I think they try to put in as much into it as we did. The thing was, we had to do it more often, 7 days a week. 2 of those days you had to wrestle at least twice, with TV taping, and on Sundays it was usually in the afternoon and at night. But these guys today, even though they may only wrestle, you know, 2, 3, 4 times a week in large arenas and usually fly there or whatever they do, drive or whatever, they have it easier that way. But you can see that they're really, some of these guys are tremendous athletes. I mean, the things that they're doing, incredible. I mean, I just watched tonight out here, this guy Creed, and these young guys, I mean, they're not heavyweights, but man, they're moving out there and doing some fantastic stuff. And I watch it like the Hardy Boys and all that out there. You know, whenever you see guys like that and have the honor to see the sons of a lot of the guys that I wrestled, like The Rock and many of the others, Blackjack Mulligan's son, and just the idea of them being out there and being stars and everything, man, it gives me a great feeling. Even though I don't support the wrestling today as far as being an avid watcher, I choose not to because of my religious conviction in the Lord, you know, and the nakedness and the storyline being demonic and all this. And I just choose not to, you know, to watch that, because I think you are what you watch. If you don't stand for something, you fall for anything, you know.
Okay, one last question. You'd mentioned your book earlier. Fans out there who would love to get a copy of your book, and they're not able to catch you at a show, how would they go about purchasing a copy of your book?
I'll go online, ivankoloff.com, and click on to book like Crowbar Press, or you could order it right from crowbarpress.com. That's my co-producer, Scott Teal. He ended up doing several of the wrestlers' books, and could order it directly from him. But I would appreciate it also because it helps my ministry and keeps me out there. And that's really appreciated whenever people help support it. Believe me, I'll get the most out of every dollar because I'm going to use it to put gas in my car and go out and witness to the people.
Okay, thank you so much, wrestling legend, the Russian Bear, Ivan Koloff. Thank you so much for being with us today. It's been an honor.
My pleasure. God bless you.
All right, fans, that'll do it for the Rick Deezel Show for this episode. Don't forget, coming up, more great interviews on the Rick Deezel Show coming up in future episodes. We've got interviews coming. Future guests include fabulous Frankie Fontaine, Tennessee Ernie Nord, and in the not too distant future, TNA star Consequences Creed. All right here on the Rick Deezel Show. We'll see you next time.